Good morning. It's a dreary, but good morning here in Washington, D.C. We're at DuPont Circle. And today I'm going to take a look at one block. It is block number, I think this is block number 0136 in Washington, D.C. Now you might hear some papers rattling. I did print off some notes for this trip. Now the building you're looking at right now is just beautiful. This is number 15 DuPont Circle. It was built in 1901 by McKim, Mead, and White. And when we get across the street, we'll see the historic marker in front of this really landmark building here. It was owned by R.W. Patterson and family, and it has quite a bit of history. Now, as we've walked back and forth around this area and then to the west toward Sheridan Circle and the Kalorama area, we encounter a number of Gilded Age mansions that thankfully have been preserved. Many of them became embassies or the homes of different organizations. And in this case, it's the home of a business currently called Placemaker. But just take a really good look at the ornamental columns and all the work around the windows. So we'll cross the street and get a better look when it is safe so to do. These traffic circles are interesting to navigate, especially since some drivers tend to not actually follow the rules and the signs. This is P Street on DuPont Circle. We're going to head north and we're going to circle this entire block. And we'll get close up here to get a good picture of this doorway. And the second story balcony. And all the ornamentation here. You can see the garlands and cherubs with fruit and grapes and urns overflowing. And the idea here was to demonstrate wealth and bounty and opulence. And from this corner, a really nice view of the fountain at DuPont Circle. I'll have to make a whole video on DuPont Circle. I have love-hate relationship with this traffic circle here. Hello, BJ Bros. Very nice to meet you. So if you walk north, you can get really good views of the artwork on this building. Again, with the fruit, the wheat, the grapes, the wine, the cherubs, all illustrating wealth. In this case, of the Patterson family who built this home. And just here, there is a historic marker for what is known as the Patterson House. This mansion was completed in, 1903. And Robert Wilson Patterson was the editor of the Chicago Tribune. Interesting and beautiful. So as we walk toward the north, and then we'll turn on to New Hampshire Avenue, this is where we see the mix of preserved architecture and newer buildings. This building here, which is number 11 DuPont Circle, was built in 1974. And pretty much the entire time that I've worked in Washington, D.C., at least part of this building has been unoccupied. And you can see there's a sign there to lease the space here. You know, it's a prime location, but who knows? Always feels like that building has struggled to be completely occupied. And again, a really nice view of the Circle and the fountain at DuPont Circle. I hope everyone's doing well today. It's about to rain here, so I'm getting in my walk a little bit earlier than normal. Hopefully to avoid the raindrops. If not, we'll keep walking in the rain. So we're turning north on New Hampshire Avenue, and I will cross the street and then come back over. So we can take a look at the more historic structures on this block. And I shouldn't say anything, but thankfully there's not a lot of traffic right now, so I can walk in the bike lane, so to speak. Now this one, I've always liked this little narrow building here, currently occupied by epic.org. I don't know what epic.org is. But we're on New Hampshire Avenue now. Whoops. Trash in the street. We're on New Hampshire Avenue now. We're walking north. And this building was built in 1880. The first, what we see here as the first 2 stories were completed in 1880. And the notes, the architectural notes say that the addition above the 3rd story, this all looks like one complete structure, so perhaps it was in the back, but the notes say that there was an addition approved in 1917, so perhaps it's on the back of the structure. This was designed by Robert McGoodwin, and the later addition designed by Daisy Breaux, who B-R-E-A-U-X, who was the owner of this home. I like it. Again, I enjoy a mix of different architectural styles, which we'll certainly have here on this block. I really like the window design. I like the balcony up on the 4th story, the sunken entrance. I think it's a nice design. Hi, Kenneth. Very nice to meet you. So again, this one, 1880 for this little narrow, lovely here. Next door, this is 1521 New Hampshire Avenue. And here we have 1902 for the date that this one was constructed. Completely different style from the one we just looked at. This has that pseudo mansard roof that is influenced by the Second Empire architecture. The ornamentation, the keystone ornamentation above the windows. No shutters here. This is concrete and stone with interesting window design on the 1st floor, and the entrance way has kind of an Art Nouveau look to it. Whoops. Okay, that car's not coming this way. I'm trying to be super careful. Hi, Tyler. What caused me to do this today? Welcome to my channel. On weekends, I get out and I do little architectural walks, usually in Washington, D.C., sometimes Philadelphia, Baltimore, wherever I am. I'm a historian, and by hobby. I have a day job, but my passion is history and architecture, and this is what I do. And I'm really glad to have you join along. I'm either going to fall one day and you'll all see it, or you'll see my camera fly, or I'll get hit by a truck. It is what it is. What we do for the art. The next one here is, it's great to meet you. Oh, heck. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you, Tyler. Where are you from? I hope you. I'm dodging raindrops today, so at the point where my walk speeds up, you'll know why. I wanted to get out early before the rain today. This one here, 1523 New Hampshire Avenue. Again, another completely different style. These are the blocks that I really enjoy, where you don't have the same cookie cutter structures one after another. I love the variety here. This one was built in 1891 by T. Franklin Schneider. It was owned by Miss Miranda Fraser. And you can see here, again, 4 stories, indicative of wealth at the time. Living in this area of Washington, D.C., this was the place to be. This was almost the outskirts of Washington, believe it or not, in the 1900s, or early 1900s, late 1800s, excuse me. But a really cool design with the concrete on the first floor, the brickwork above, the interesting roof line, different sizes of windows. I just love it. Really like this one. So we're continuing north on New Hampshire Avenue. We're going to just take a look at this one block. So this one, number 1525 New Hampshire Avenue, was built in 1895. And you can also see, like, this was not just one big block of houses all slapped together at the same time. These were all built in different years. One would pop up and then another and then another. This one was built in 1895 by the architect John Lecoq. I think that's what it says. Can't read my writing. I think it says John Lecoq, for Mrs. Cromwell. So this was Mrs. Cromwell's home. Not certain about the color choices here. Now the bottom, I can assume that was red brick and then painted over several times with the lighter color brick above. I do like the little round windows at the top. And this one, I'm going to cross over here now. This may be one of my embassies. Obviously there's a flag. This is the Embassy of the Republic of, is it Mozambique? It is Mozambique. Okay, so I've done a video on this one. I've done videos. Tyler, if you check out my channel, you'll see videos on a lot of architecture, but particularly the embassies here in Washington. Just because there's such interesting architecture, and because many of the Gilded Age and other buildings that were so architecturally significant, they were saved because during the Great Depression, when they couldn't be upkept anymore, the foreign missions moved in. Now this one is not on the block that we're studying. It's directly across the street, number 1520 New Hampshire Avenue. This is the Embassy of Jamaica. And then back on the sidewalk, because the traffic's getting a little busy, is the Whitmore House. And it's the Women's National Democratic Club with their donkey in front, which is also a historic building, built between 1892 and 1894. All right, so back across the street here. Can't always have a sunny day for a beautiful photo, but you can still appreciate. What is my day job? Working in DC. Are you in architecture? No, I'm in no, I do really boring administrative type work for a great big Fortune 500 company. Love my job, absolutely love my job in my company, but this is my passion. Now this one here, 1527 New Hampshire Avenue. Look at the design here. It's bigger, obviously. We have the rounded windows. We have the little turret style at the top of the building here. So this person was obviously much more well off, or wanted to pretend they were more well off than their neighbors. So this is 1527 New Hampshire Avenue. This one was built, and now we are going to have a series of buildings built by the same architect who we mentioned earlier in 1523. So the same architect who did 1523 over there in the center is the same architect who did this one, T. Franklin Schneider. And this one was built in 1889 for Lewis Emmert. And Lewis Emmert was the builder and owner / developer. So you'll see in the next view that T. Franklin Schneider designed the buildings for Lewis Emmert. So we have this one here. And then right next door, even though designed by the same architect and owned by the same owner, completely different style here. At number 1531. And I'm going to cross over again because it's safe, but this is also part of an embassy, and we're going to see the next several buildings are part of the Embassy of Botswana. So I'm getting a little closer here. So we can see the ornamentation around the doorway. And this is a huge doorway. So you've got this building here, and that's kind of the common element. While the design elements, while the overall design is different, the common element here is this rounded, ornamented door arch. So same architect, same owner. This is, I'm gonna get this wrong, but this is obviously imitating like the English manor style. That's probably the wrong official title for that. Just because of the design here of the windows, the balcony up there, the roof line, and all the design elements here. Hey Tyler, okay, I would love to have a passion like you. I'm young and working for the DOD in Texas. So we probably have some common customers there, Tyler. I would love to have a passion like you. Yeah, it's no, you're not deviating me at all, because I love to have questions. Just living and working here my entire life and always being a history buff, and just appreciating the fact that we have history everywhere we look in this city and where I'm from in Baltimore. You don't have to look hard to find history, and it's really easy to find it in the architecture of these buildings. Now at this, I really do like this intersection. So diagonal from where we're standing now on New Hampshire Avenue is the Embassy of Argentina. Look at that one. We'll do an entire video on this. I've done a short video on the Embassy complex of Argentina here, but I really like this building. So we'll do a longer form video like the one that I did on the Embassy of Australia. So we'll do an in-depth review of that building. And during the day, when there is sun, when the sun is hitting this building, it's quite magnificent. It's really beautiful. You can see the French influence there. Again, that Second Empire roofline, which might look a lot like buildings that you see in France. All right, and now this one, now we're at 1531 New Hampshire Avenue, and this building was built in 1890. So 1531 was built in, I said 1531 already. This is 1533. 1531 built in 1890, and 1533 built in 1891. And again, these three in a row here, all designed by T. Franklin Schneider for Lewis Emmert. And this also is part of the Embassy of Botswana. So we'll walk up here and then we'll turn around. And as you walk up New Hampshire Avenue, this is another great walk for looking at embassies, architectures, lots of flags. Going up further on New Hampshire Avenue here, which we're not going to do today. But taking another look at that Embassy of Argentina and the design there. And then some of the other buildings on this intersection. So I encourage you, if you're in Washington, D.C., to head north on New Hampshire Avenue and take a look at all the architecture here. I'm going to cross over here to this little traffic. Oh, not yet. Okay. In a second, I'm going to cross over to this little traffic island to take a look back on the Embassy of Botswana. Yeah, and these are triangular intersections because Washington, D.C. is designed kind of, in a French influence, with the wheel and spoke, with traffic circles intersecting the main streets. So the streets that go east to west are the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can see here we're on Q Street, appropriately. And the streets that go north to south are numbers. So this is 18th and Q Street. Then the large thoroughfares that crisscross and connect different important parts of the city through big traffic circles, those are usually named for states. So New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts, Maryland, Indiana, California, they're streets for the states that then connect this grid pattern through the traffic circles. DuPont Circle being one of them. We've done a walk around Scott Circle, Sheridan Circle, Washington Circle, whole bunch of circles, and then a lot of green space in Washington, D.C. So either on the circles or nearby the circles are squares that preserve a lot of that great green space. So we have McPherson Square and Farragut Square and a whole bunch of others. Look at a map of Washington, D.C., and you'll kind of see that this is a planned city, as you know. This was not an existing city when our nation's capital was kind of officially established as the capital, 1790. There are three components to Washington, D.C. There's the city of Georgetown, which was an established town and is the oldest part of Washington, D.C. And then across the river, Alexandria, Virginia. And then the rest of Washington, the city of Washington. Well, Alexandria, after a few years, decided they really didn't want to be part of the nation's capital. So Alexandria left. And what is left is the city of Washington and what was Georgetown. So if you look on a map, you'll see that Washington, D.C. was planned as a square on its side, a diamond. And you can see how the streets were laid out. So sorry for that detour, but it's the planned nature of Washington, D.C. leads to some of the interest here and the ease of walking around. Whereas you walk through London, which is amazing. I love London. But all the streets are kind of higgledy-piggledy. And you never know where you're going to be. And it's not, sometimes it's not so easy to get someplace. But in D.C. you can get everywhere because the streets are numbered and lettered. Back to the Embassy of Botswana. This is 1533 New Hampshire Avenue, built in 1891, designed by T. Franklin Schneider for Louis Emmert. Occupied today by the Embassy of Botswana. The good thing on a rainy day is you do get more flag action with the breezes. But I just wish it was a little sunnier. Okay. We're done with the map detour now. So now I'm walking south on 18th Street. We're on the west side. No, sorry. We're on the east side of the block that we're looking at today, which is block 0136. And we're heading south to take a really good look at these buildings. Now, across the street, also some really interesting architecture, which we'll get into in a future video. But you'll see there's such a mix of styles. If you visit Washington, D.C., go see the monuments, go see the memorials. Visit them during the day, visit them at night because they look different, but also get out into the neighborhoods and areas like this. Now, from the center of Washington, D.C., this is a longer walk than what I did the other day when I said I was on F Street and it was about a 10-minute walk. This is a good 25 to 30-minute walk from the National Mall. So you would want to drive here or take the metro. The DuPont Circle metro is right around the corner. We'll get into these buildings on another walk, but just since we're here, just look at the variety here in the styles across the street. So here we are at 1528 18th Street. Now we're on 18th Street. This building was built in 1889 by C.H. Harnhouse, brother. Harkness, okay, like Captain Jack. Okay, 1528 18th Street, built in 1889 by C.H. Harkness. And I don't mind the painted brick at all. I think the painted brick gives a lot of interest and variety to the structures. Now I'm gonna cross the street so we can come back here, but before I do, I want to take a look at the architectural marvel that is St. Thomas's Parish Church. This, and I did a separate video on this church, so check it out. A church has stood here for quite a long time, and this design initially not so well received as you can imagine, but has really become part of this vibrant neighborhood. The design, I love this design. I think it's interesting. I think it adds variety. I think it is respectful. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, it looks more like an office building than a church, which some may say, but I do like it. I think it's a good design. So let's carefully cross the street. All right, so I'm on the east side of 18th Street right now, looking back at the buildings that we looked at, and you'll notice that these are the same design, but the painted brick helps to distinguish them. And as you can imagine, they were built by the same architect, C.H. Harkness, in 1889. Now this one on the corner, also built by the same architect, designed by the same architect, built by the same builder, but quite different in design. This is 1524 18th Street, also built in 1889. So while the same architect and builder worked on all three of these, with the two to the north looking really similar, this one here, very different. This is a 4-story. Certainly cost more. I like this little block. Now here we have a more modern structure. This is currently the home of the Hong Kong Trade Office. This one was built in 1912. I'm gonna try to go backward here a little bit. Try to get back. There we go. This one was built in 1912 by Jules de Cibourg for R.S. Hitt. Really stunning classical example. Not as ornamented, but just classic. And huge. This would have been a huge townhome. Mr. Hitt must have been quite wealthy. And I'm gonna talk loudly again because we have music and I don't want to get a copyright hit. I don't understand people who play music so loudly, so early in the morning. But of course, I'm probably disturbing the neighbors by talking. So this one, I think this is the oh no, not quite the final one. So this one on the corner was built in 1893. This is 1801 P Street. We're going to turn the corner on P Street. This was built by architects Hornblower and Marshall for W.J. Bodeman. And this is certainly a different style for For 1893, for this area, this is I want to say an odd architectural choice. It's huge. It's boxy. There's no ornamentation. There is nothing around these windows. And yeah, you can see there's a broadcast tower on top of this building. This is the Iraqi embassy. And we're directly across the street from the annex to the Chancery for the Embassy of Malaysia, which I've covered in another video. And you can check that out. But this building, kind of bleh, has the more narrow brick, not the bright red brick color brick. A strange choice for a chimney, just not the same architectural style as the rest of this neighborhood. Kind of sticks out a little bit. We'll cross over so we can get a better view. But then again, directly across from here, this is one we're gonna spend some time on. This is a beautiful example of Second Empire, completely French influenced architecture here at 1789 Massachusetts Avenue. We'll definitely do a walk here, and we'll do a deep dive on that building. All right, crossing while I have the light. And just waiting for those raindrops. Any minute now. Okay. So here you can get a better view of this. I feel like this is just such an oddball architectural example here. Not only the strange color brick, but you've got this bow front, the balcony above, the very odd carport over to the left, carriage port, whatever we want to call it. This building was built in 1893, so we'll call it a carriage port. But I'm gonna look at some of the architectural publications that we've seen when we've looked at other buildings, and I really want to see what the neighbors thought of this one. When we did our look at the former 1601 Massachusetts Avenue, the building that was on the site where the Australian embassy now is, and that embassy is amazing, and how even the neighbors, even the owners, didn't like the design of that building, and so the successive owners kept adding on to it to try to make it a little more aesthetically pleasing. I feel like that's this one. It just reminds me of this one, so maybe we'll find it was the same architect, but just not. All right, this guy's dangerous for sure. That dude's gonna, I wish him well. But yeah, I just feel like this doesn't fit in the area, and just not certain of the choices. I'm hoping that those grates around the windows were added later, because they're quite horrendous. Yeah. The narrow brick is not a good choice. The color is not a good choice. Obviously, this building has seen its better days. If you look closely at the balcony on the third floor, it looks like there's been some damage there. But just the design choice. And then you have this carport, which, okay, sometimes odd things, I guess, are interesting. It just doesn't fit. Right, so the building's not symmetrical. Here you have straight lines, but then you have this, vaulted side here. You have this port for a carriage, presumably, built in 1893, so a carriage port. And then you have this mosaic work. How does that fit at all with the architecture? You have the work here on the ceiling, the arched ceiling. Okay, so this is, all right, let me see if I can do this right. It is MD, so 15, CCC, XC. So MD, 15, 16, 17, 1894. So that says 1894. So MD, CCC, XC, IV, 1894. So I said 1893. So the mosaic work was done in 1894. Just a strange concoction of architectural styles. I don't even know what this is over here. Like, what on earth is that? Why? Just why? You know, sometimes we can appreciate architecture for what it's not. And in this case, I don't know what this is. I don't know why. Would I love to go inside here? Of course I would. I would love to be invited into any of these buildings. I did have the opportunity to visit inside the Embassy of Indonesia a little while ago, so I do have a video from my visit there that I need to publish soon. But let's take one last look back on this monstrosity. Okay, I'm being really rude, but the architects are no longer with us, so I don't think they'll be offended. And then here we go with the variety. Here we have the Ampere building, designed by Hartman and Cox, 2017. So super new. In between this and the building where we started, the Patterson house here. Now, if we don't look back at the Iraqi embassy and we just look at these buildings, I think this is a nice solution here for a modern building next to the historic Patterson house. And you can see, hopefully, I'm sure this isn't coincidental, but you can see the marble on the facade of this building that kind of blends in with the marble panels between the windows on this building. I think that's really well done. Some little touches like that certainly help to unify the architectural styles in the area. And we need to have buildings that are nice to look at. But I guess we also need monstrosities so that when we look at nice buildings, we can appreciate the nice buildings. Because that one certainly is a monstrosity. All right, let's take a circuit of DuPont Circle, and then I'm gonna head to the bookstore and then end this stream. So we walked around block number 0136, Northwest Washington, D.C. Oops, you can hear my notes. So we followed my notes. Oops. So this is, I use DC History Quest map for the historic information about buildings in Washington, D.C. It's easy to use. The color coding on the map, the darker the structure, the older it is. So the ones that are light yellow were built recently. The ones that are dark red are the oldest. All right, I'm gonna find the best place to cross the street here. It's probably up here. These traffic circles. I'm not gonna jaywalk here. This is too dangerous. These traffic circles are crazy. And it's not the actual traffic circle. Obviously, it's the drivers who don't know what they're doing. All right, I have a clear path here. So in addition to New Hampshire Avenue, the other streets that converge on DuPont Circle are Massachusetts Avenue, which is behind me, 19th Street, which is just up here, Connecticut Avenue, which is beyond 19th Street, And then Massachusetts again on the other side of the circle. And then Connecticut Avenue, 18th Street, etc. on the south side. Lots of historic structures here on this side of the circle with commercial, retail, dining, shops on the first floors. I don't mind it because if there weren't shops occupying these spaces, they might not be here today. So if you can look beyond the first floor, there's a lot of interesting architecture here. I did a short video up these blocks previously, but I'll have to live stream up there as well. Lots of nice shops. All right, and here's the circle. I apologize, now it's getting quite windy. So if the audio is a mess, I do apologize. This, I mentioned earlier, I have a love-hate with DuPont Circle. It's absolutely beautiful, historic. I love to think about how this looked many, many years ago. It's also the site of an epic snowball battle. Whenever it snows in Washington, D.C., the whole city comes out for a snowball battle here in DuPont Circle. But over the years, depending on which mayor and city council are in power here, this circle tends to run to ruin and is overrun by people who don't care, who absolutely trash the place constantly, who deface this beautiful fountain, and the city just lets it go. It looks great now, I guess because we're heading into the spring and there's been a cleanup, but this circle can be absolutely horrendous. So I'm glad to see the way it looks today. Now, this is DuPont Circle. The DuPont family, very famous in American history. We can do a lot of study on all the famous DuPonts and their service to our country. This one is named for Samuel Francis DuPont, who was an admiral in the Navy and did wonderful service for our country. I've done some study on Henry A. DuPont, who was an artillery commander during the United States Civil War on the Union side. He commanded units in the 6th Corps. He commanded the United States, the U.S. Artillery Division, Complement, etc. And really did some great things around the science of artillery. Played an important part in the Battle of Newmarket, Battle of Piedmont, several other battles. And I know about him because my ancestors' unit was part of Henry A. DuPont's artillery command. So here we are. And we will end the stream here at the beautiful fountain on a nice day when people aren't trashing it. I hope everyone has an absolutely fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.